All right, this is just my ploy to get people to watch us on YouTube now. I'm going to officially do the Eli Manning.
There we go. Nice.
We can blur that out, right? We can blur that
We'll
out.
figure it out.
I have been in love with the Manning cast now.
It's awesome.
It gets better and better. Can I say this really quickly about the Manning cast as well before we get going here, Dan? I want there to be less guests unless they can get them all in the same room. Like having the ability to get I'd be okay with having less guests if you have like 1.5 or even just one guest that shows up at some point in time if they're all in the same room. The Zoom thing is just so choppy right now, and everyone's dealing with it. We deal with it. Everyone deals with it. So we're getting better at just kind of accepting it. But I got to be honest, the Manning cast is so fascinating, and having LeBron on, and they had Pat McAfee 2 weeks ago. It's all so good, but it's just so annoying. What you just want to hear them talk. I just want to hear Peyton's thoughts. Peyton Manning yelling at Mike McCarthy to call timeout last night was all of us. It was all of us, and I think I tweeted out many times, like, can Peyton and Eli just combine their money and buy the Bears? I'm all in on that. I'm all in on that.
100%.
They're like the smartest of smart football fans. It's been such a win for ESPN, and shame on ESPN for making Eli apologize for the double bird.
I know. Come on.
Everyone should be allowed to do the double bird. I'm doing it again. It's YouTube. You can do the double bird on YouTube, right?
Absolutely. And hey, look, the whole point was we wanted the Manning personalities to come out in full force. So look, let them have a little fun. Plus, it's not even your Monday Night Football broadcast. It's the additional thing, the sidebar. So what's the problem with that? I mean, come on now. Anyway, welcome to the Football Lounge, everybody. Here we are in week 3 of the NFL season, wrapping up now, 3 games in to this one. So we're already starting to see those narratives form, and that means our points are going to get a little bit stronger here. The topic's going to be a little bit, more playoff-driven and divisional-driven now as we get things going into the first quarter of the NFL season. Of course, got week 4 coming up here and some really good games, some really good primetime games. We've already treated great ones, obviously, Mark, already in this young season. But before all of this, I don't know if you heard the news. It's, not something like it's been a, yearly topic for the last decade, but Josh Gordon is an NFL wide receiver once again. How about that?
It really is a yearly topic for the past decade.
It's crazy.
What was it? The year he made All Pro was 2013?
2012, I think. But because that was the year he burst onto the scene and had 1,500 yards, led the NFL. And
his legs got a lot of football life still left to give. And it's one of those things where I try to put myself in whenever situations like this happen. I don't try to put myself in NFL analyst hat. I try to put myself in Chiefs fan hat on. I try to think to myself, all right. I mean, my immediate reaction was well, if it's gonna work, it's gonna work with a Brady, a Russell Wilson, a Patrick Mahomes, an elite guy who has complete control of the locker room, who can just kind of make this work and get this fit right, like Brady did with Antonio Brown. But then my other immediate thought was man, wait a minute. This feels a lot like when the Bears just called Jason Peters. We're we need a literal body. We just need a body because we don't have bodies. And then I think to myself, what is the organization they are desperate for wide receiver help, a true number 2 at this point in time, wide receiver.
Yeah.
And is an organization I trust and I really have faith in. This is what their front office saw was the best option available. You have all the time in the world to go make a trade, to get who's on your practice squad, who have you been scouting, who's available, who else is just looking for
but there's nothing to lose, though. There's nothing for them to lose here. Throw the guy in the practice squad. We don't even know if he's going to be activated. I mean,
true.
Really, we don't know what their intentions are with him, and they may still try and go out there and get a trade. I mean, it's really like nothing to lose, but we have seen him with Russell Wilson, and he wasn't able to resurrect his career in Seattle.
Yeah.
So being a guy that's talented, yes, but he's had his opportunities in New England. He's had his opportunities in Seattle, and he still finds himself in this situation where he doesn't quite break through. I mean, he had those incredible seasons nearly a decade ago at this point. But it's just funny to see that the cycle continues for the NFL reinstatement of Josh Gordon, and he is once again on an NFL team. We'll see if he does make it to the gridiron.
He's already picked
Sundays.
up in my fantasy league. Someone already grabbed him right away. I thought to myself, ooh, I got to be on that. Someone already grabbed me. You sons of bitches.
But you know what? It's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to be fooled anymore. I don't want to be fooled by the Josh Gordon reinstatement thing. So,
I would have grabbed him. I would have grabbed him, but someone beat me to it.
Dicey. All right, well, here we go into our week 3 recap. He's Mark. I'm Dan. Let's get to it. Thursday Night Football, Mark. We're already 6 days later. It seems like every time we do this, it seems like the TNF game is well in the past, but the Panthers put a whooping on the Houston Texans, 24-9. Sam Darnold with a couple rushing touchdowns, looking really comfortable on the field in this one. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard stepping up in place of Christian McCaffrey. And, did well at 52 yards on 11 carries. And they were just able to sustain things. Davis Mills and company, it's the Houston Texans. I don't know what more you could say about it. What were your initial thoughts to the 24-9 win and Carolina improving to 3-0?
This is, again, one of those games that I think is so important if you're a fan and you're looking at your schedule and you're trying to build confidence about your team. You, at the beginning of the year, as a Panthers fan, circled this as a win. You got to win. Like, though, you can't undersell those type of games. Anytime that happens and you go back to those kind of preseason predictions, feel good about something, you have to take those and be excited about them. And listen, I think if there's a fan base in the NFL right now that has just got to feel good, you could argue it's the Carolina Panthers. You have a head coach that I feel like you believe in. You have a young defense that is now some injuries that you hate to see, especially to your first round pick, your cornerback Horn. But overall, it seems as though you have found a way to move on from this Cam Newton era quicker than you thought. I mean, with that bridge year with Teddy Bridgewater, and all of a sudden now you could really have something going with Sam Darnold. It's weird to feel this way, but I don't know yet the ceiling for the Carolina Panthers, but now you have to just go into the game expecting them to be competitive and expecting Sam Darnold to look good. And that's a weird thing for me to feel as an NFL fan, that I have to expect the Panthers to play well and Sam Darnold to look good. Like, that's how I feel after 3 weeks of Panthers football. And for the Texans, at this point in time, they are, until they get Tyrod Taylor back, they are just going to be a dumpster fire. Tyrod Taylor, it gives them some stability and gives them a competitive nature. And without him, they're just a little bit of a tire fire at this point. And listen, no two rough shots to Davis Mills. All the rookie quarterbacks look rough right now. He's in that group.
Yeah, I mean, the personnel that you have to work with as well is not an ideal recipe for success for Davis Mills in the situation he's in, going up against that great Carolina defense as well. Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of the sentiments there. Obviously, their defense has been playing lights out. Especially the back end. The J.C. Horn injury obviously hurt, but then they pull off the big trade for C.J. Henderson from Jacksonville in exchange for, a 3rd round pick, and Dan Arnold, your, backup tight end, who, don't get me wrong, had his place in this offense, but, they're going to be just fine. That is now, an upgrade to the secondary, and hopefully they get J.C. Horn back by the end of the season. Just a great move by Scott Fitterer, the GM, and this team. Jacksonville, once again, parting with yet another 1st round pick in just a couple years. I mean, it's crazy the amount of 1st round picks that they no longer have on their roster, dating back all the way to, I think, 2012 or 2013. It's wild how quickly they move off of a lot of these guys.
At some point in time, if you're Jacksonville, I'll just say this. You have got to just let guys walk in free agency. You've got to show your fan base that you're at least trying to keep them, because you're just building a culture now where your 1st round pick gets to that final year in the deal and they demand a trade. Like at some point in time, you just got to say, no, we want you as part of our culture. here's the deal. Or if you're walking free agents, you walk, but you got to try. Like, you got to show them and try. I mean, it's a nice little package you got back for him, but at some point in time, you just got to try.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on to Washington at Buffalo, and the Bills handling business here, doubling up the football team 43-21, a little bit closer at times, but really, the Bills were in control for much of this. Washington was down 21-0, but then they had a big play from Antonio Gibson, the big touchdown catch, and then Heineke scores to make it 21-14 in the second quarter. But then Buffalo comes right back, 2 field goal drives in the final minutes of the first half, including under 30 seconds. They go 27-14 at the break. Josh Allen with 3 first-half touchdowns. And in the end, Buffalo, Mark, takes care of business here, a 22-point victory for them.
There's only one stat that matters in this game, and that is the fact that Mitchell Trubisky had the same amount of passing yards total net as Justin Fields.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So that's the stat that matters to me. No, I mean, in all honesty, where is this Washington football team defense? Same pieces, same coordinator, same head coach. And I'm just not seeing it. I mean, I bet on Washington to win this division based on the sense that I thought their defense was going to be able to. Obviously, when I see them playing against the Bills, whether they had Fitzpatrick or not, I'm circling that as a loss at the beginning of the season. But you expect that defense to carry them, and this defense needs to turn around because they're not uncompetitive with Heineke. Heineke is not putting them in a spot where it was like Davis Mills bad, like this is, or like Bears letting up 9 sacks type bad. So they need to step up if they have any chance of getting back in this division race after 3 weeks. 1 and 2, it's no time to totally panic, but they have just not looked like what we all expect them to look like. I expect them to look like. And for the Bills, love this type of win. I mean, you go out and you absolutely hold serve against what we thought was a good defense. Josh Allen has been on a tear, absolute tear since week 1. And if light, go from the Dolphins and the football team to do that to 2 defenses and 2 head coaches that are defensive guys, got to feel good as a Bills fan. And with the rest of the AFC East struggling, this is a huge momentum builder for them at home. Great win for the Bills.
Yeah, 5 total touchdowns for Josh Allen, 4 through the air, 1 on the ground. Manuel Sanders getting himself involved in this offense. They're really starting to click here now, Mark. And even the running game's getting going. I mean, we saw Zach Moss have a couple really nice plays in there, and Devin Singletary. So a lot of what was, worrisome going into the year, especially even after week 1 with the dud against Pittsburgh, they're really starting to show why there wasn't too much reason to panic after just 1 game. They're clicking, and they're looking just fine against what many assumed was going to be an even more improved defense in Washington coming into the year after already being one of the better units last season. But yeah, Washington right now not doing itself any favors in this divisional race, as we'll get to the Cowboys taking care of business and moving up the ranks there. Tough sledding here for the football team so far. All right, Mark, you mentioned
Can I ask you one real quick question off that game? Just I want to really quickly on Buffalo. Right now, as I sit here on this Tuesday afternoon, I feel more, if you had to make me pick a team out of the AFC after 3 weeks, I would go Buffalo. I mean, I know the week 1 loss was bad. It was embarrassing, but what they've done over the previous 2 weeks and how much Kansas City's fallen off for the last 2 weeks and how shaky Baltimore's looked, shaky Cleveland's looked at times. Don't you make the argument that right now you've had the most faith in Buffalo to get out of the AFC after 3 weeks?
Maybe. I still feel more comfortable with Kansas City based on what they've been able to do.
So many turnovers.
There was way too many turnovers, and that's like the live by the sword, die by the sword type of thing, right, for them. And, sometimes maybe you get a little bit too ahead of yourself. I think in certain circumstances, I mean, we'll get to the game recap, but in certain circumstances, you really could have leaned more into just, running the football, actually playing, more traditional football than what we're used to, the hero ball that we see week in and week out from Mahomes. It did come back to bite them. I would still feel comfortable, though, going into any given matchup, probably still feeling more comfortable with Kansas City. Although Buffalo, I mean, they're right there. I'm not saying it's a big difference. So I think you can certainly make that case that they're right there in contention for being that, top team to fear in the AFC. Baltimore not too far off either, despite that performance this past week, that close game. But we'll get to that in a moment. But you did mention the Bears game, and that's kind of next up on the list here. Just a brutal showing there in Cleveland as the Browns come away with a 26-6 victory. You mentioned the 9 sacks, Myles Garrett going off for 4.5 in this game. I think that tied a franchise record for the Cleveland Browns. And really the running backs too in this game, Mark, absolutely dominated. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb both having some big games and some big gains on certain plays as well. But obviously the big thought process was Justin Fields getting his first start. A lot of eyes on him, and certainly didn't perform, the way that a lot of people were hoping. There's been, vitriol against the coaching staff, against the team in general. Where do you stand here after just this brutal 20-point loss on the road?
I mean, there's I don't want to steal anyone's thoughts, to each everyone's thoughts are their own. I want to say this. I want to echo what Dan Orlovsky said. I retweeted that video that he did on Get Up the other morning. And I'll just say this. Dan Orlovsky is one of those guys. I know he can be a little annoying, I think, at times. And you got to remember as a fan just watching, they're doing a TV show. They're trying to be entertaining, trying to be funny. But he does know football and he knows film, and and so much of I trust when and his analysis and what he said about having 150 days basically for coaching staff for them to be preparing for this game. I think what it shows me is that I truly do not believe in my heart of hearts that Matt Nagy has prepared enough and done enough work purely based on the thought that I am going to be Justin Fields' head coach for the next couple of years. And I cannot wait to just use him and get out there and show the world me and Justin Fields going to take over the NFL. That, and that to me then peels back so much of the organization and the thoughts of what's going on in the organization and the dysfunction in Hallis Hall, and probably now starting to think, no, what Matt Nagy is really concerned about is just his job. And he built that offense around Andy Dalton, knowing that there's a certain number of games he has to win to keep his job, and that the organization doesn't believe that he's capable or didn't give him that reassurance, because there's just no way that you could be that unprepared to use Justin Fields and his talents. And that's what you put out there. Unless it's just it's so mind boggling. My mind is in a Rubik's Cube trying to figure out what the hell happened. 1.1 yards per play. That's the second fewest of any team this century. I also want to give a shout out to Kevin Fishbane. He's a writer for the Chicago Bears for The Athletic. The Athletic does great work, and Kevin Fishbane on Twitter, I think he said it best. You're paying so much money as a front office to the tight end position with Jimmy Graham. He saw 7 snaps offensively. 7. Now, a lot of that's because you're not in the red zone. But then it leads me to believe that, okay, you as a front office and a coaching staff are so disjointed that if your front office is spending so much money on the backup quarterbacks for Andy Dalton, for Nick Foles, so much of their cap is tied to that, and to a tight end in Jimmy Graham, who's not the future of your tight end position, but you have so much money tied up to that. And he sees 7 snaps. That's why you couldn't keep Kyle Fuller. And why you're having struggle. And that's why you have no money to work on your offensive line, and you have to sign a dead body that is Jason Peters, because your plan as a front office was, let's trust a really talented kid who's going to be a rookie at tackle who has back issues, who had to have back surgery before the season started. It opens up a loss like that opens up all those cans of worms. And so you can see where my brain's at. You can hear how it's hard for me to just even focus on the game, because you start to see little stats like that, and it opens up all of those cans of worms. And even the guy who you think is the future of your tight end position, help out your young quarterback. Cole Kmet only wasn't even in on 100% of the snaps. Only saw 43 snaps on the offense out of the 45. You just I mean, again, the 9 sacks, all these other things, it opens up these cans of worms and all these questions I have. So if I try to boil it down to one thing, if you've noticed, followed me on Twitter recently, I have been one of the leaders of jumping on the hashtag Fire Nagy Twitter hashtag. And I think it's just deserved at this point. The Bears will not fire anyone midseason. They just won't, because that's just not who they are as an organization. I'd be shocked if they did. But at some point in time, Dan, I think I now have enough. I have seen now enough to say, not that it wasn't Mitchell Trubisky's fault. I'm not saying now, we should owe Mitch an apology, because there's plenty of chances, there's plenty of film, and there's plenty of screen grabs. He's like, Mitchell made the wrong choice. But now I've seen enough to know that this leadership group, they got lucky that Justin Fields fell to them at 11. They got lucky that the Giants were willing to make the trade with them to get Justin Fields. None of this, they were fully prepared to play a season with Andy Dalton in this offense. And that is so horrendously bad from everything that we've seen through 3 weeks offensively. I just can't do it anymore. I can't let Justin Fields get ruined by Matt Nagy. And I know we're about to talk about it here with our bold strategy. That's where I'm at. I can't even focus on the game. I'll say this about the game really quickly to end this rant. The Browns are for real. I mean, they have got to work on their offensive line. They gave up way too many sacks in that game. The only reason that game wasn't 45-6 was because the Bears got pressure with their front seven. And shout out to Quinn and Mac for having really good games. And so they got to figure that out. They got to protect Baker better. But every time they run a screen pass to Hunt or Chubb, I mean, it's so effective. Those running backs are so good. Odell Beckham looked great. Can't wait to see him and Jarvis Landry get back together. The Browns are for real, but they do got to work on their offensive line issues.
I think the Browns will be just fine. But there are a lot of troubling signs in the Windy City, and this game did expose a lot of things. But like to your point and kind of going off of it, it's more about them not having a plan or a direction, period. What are Pace and Nagy moving towards? With Cleveland, it was pretty obvious. We knew, okay, with Stefanski, we're going to build up this offensive line. We're going to get another running back. We're going to have a tandem to really work around his skill set, and we're going to be a running football team. With Lamar Jackson, when they drafted him, they developed a plan and stuck with it and made all of their moves with that in mind. We've seen similar things with a lot of other organizations in recent years about where their mindset is. With Flores in Miami, with a lot of the moves that they've done, it's all been towards building a really tough defense and an offense that could sustain drives, maybe not get the huge chunk plays, but be able to move the football down the field, stuff like that. What is the plan here in Chicago? We don't know, and we really don't even understand what direction they're trying to move in. The Kyle Fuller whole situation didn't make sense at the time to me, to keep Jimmy Graham, but then when you make that move, okay, what are you going to do with it? 7 snaps, not going to do it for me. I'm sorry. It's not going to convince anybody. And then, with 5-man protection for the vast majority of field snaps, I mean, how is that helping your quarterback succeed in the moment? And how is that helping utilize his skill set? To your point, it just doesn't seem like they have an idea or an identity. What is a Nagy offense really? At the end of the day, I still don't think we truly know. And a lot of that is what gives us, pause. And a lot of the reason why they're coming under scrutiny so much. And that does bring us, Mark, we're going to stick in Chicago before we move on to the next game with our bold strategy. As Matt Nagy said that all 3 quarterbacks, that being Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, and Justin Fields, are in consideration to start this upcoming week as they take on the Detroit Lions.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
That is a bold strategy, if I do say so myself, and we will see if it pays off. My guess is it doesn't. We obviously have Andy Dalton slightly injured, and
I'm going to kill myself if I see Nick Foles start the game. I might.
It's brutal.
I may not be here next week. I might have to kill myself. But Dan, what's so insane about that is the fact that he truly does believe it. And
I know.
And that
It's
has nothing to do. And that to me, again, just goes to show, you mentioned it. And I saw the tweet from Paul Hembo on Twitter, the 30 dropbacks for Fields, 4 using preset motion, 2 using MAC protection, 2 design rollouts, only 2 design QB runs. So, and then hearing this quote from Matt Nagy, it again just reinforces the fact that Matt Nagy has somewhere in his head that he knows he has to win games to save his job. There was some arbitrary number probably put to Pace and Nagy from George McCaskey saying, you've got to get to 8 wins or 9. You got to get to 9 wins or you ain't coming back. Like, you've got to be over 500. I've got to see this team win over 500 or you ain't coming back. And so Matt Nagy clearly spent the whole offseason just working on the offense to say, whatever Andy Dalton's comfortable with, this is the offense that's going to win us 9 games. Like, that's what he spent his time on. There is so obvious now to me that he did not spend any time building an offense for Justin Fields and knowing that at one point in time, I'm going to go with Justin Fields. And I'm so excited. Like, think about as a head coach, you're gifted the opportunity to get Justin Fields to land in your lap. And wouldn't you then, as a head coach, I would have spent weeks of time away from my family building this thing to be like, oh my God, this is going to save my job. I'm going to show the world, the NFL, here is my Justin Fields playbook. Here's the stuff we're going to do. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be different. It's going to show the organization, the league, that I'm the guy to get Justin Fields, and we're going to build this just like we thought he was going to do with Trubisky. But we had enough tape on Trubisky of him just not being accurate enough on other things to be like, all right, it's not Matt Nagy's maybe fault. Let's give him another tool. They were fully prepared to go into the season with Andy Dalton and lucked into Justin Fields. He gets the lucky opportunity, and he still does not give us what this brilliant package. So it's not there. It's not there. He did not create an offense with Justin Fields in mind. There is none, because we would have saw it. We would have seen it, because he knows his job's in line, and it was that bad. And you would have even if there is a Justin Fields playbook, he would have gone to some of that in the second half, knowing how bad the first half was. You just got to start showing us something, because then we at least can say, oh, okay, well, there's the brilliance of Matt Nagy. It's not necessarily working, but it's there. But it's not there. And by him saying this, the fact that Nick Foles is a real option, that just goes to me to shows like he's only got the 40 plays or whatever bullshit he's got on his card. And so he just needs whoever can run it the best to try and save his job. That's why that's why I'm preaching the fire Pace, fire Matt Nagy at this point in time, because there's zero, as you mentioned, direction and the competence. And that quote to me is like the nail in the coffin of fire Matt Nagy. Because how in God's green earth are you not just saying, fuck no, Nick Foles ain't playing. Justin Fields is our starter. We're going to make this work. I want to be his coach for the next 15 years. So we're going to make this work. Let's build this relationship. But he's not doing that, because there's got to be some sort of bullshit arbitrary number that he's going to win that many games.
Well, it's not even seeming to be the correct strategy to get to that arbitrary number anyway.
It's insane, Dan.
None of it makes any sense. And we'll just have to wait and see. I guess when you got Philly there, it's really, really tempting, I guess.
So fuck you for saying that. I'm telling you, and like
we got to move on, though. We got to move on. We're spending way too much time on
I know I'm not making any sense, but that's where my brain is as a fan. Like, it's just a can of worms. It's like none of this makes sense. It's like I think Barstool Big Cat tweeted out. It's like he's Andy Kaufman at this point. Like, it's like he's trying to put my mind in a pretzel, and he's succeeding. Matt Nagy is just blowing me away, and I just want him gone.
It's confusing at every turn. All right, let's move on. Let's cool off.
Yes, please.
Let's get to a really uninspiring game. It was Baltimore at Detroit. The Ravens pull out a 19-17 victory on the historic boot of Justin Tucker as he nails a 66-yard game-winning field goal to break the NFL record by 2 yards. and he does it on a game-winning, field goal that goes off of the crossbar into the net. You could have predicted this was going to be the guy to break the record, but that was really about the only thing out of this game that was remotely inspiring or, noteworthy, to be honest with you.
Hey, credit to the Ravens for finding a way to win that game in which they just looked like they were in a fog for the whole first 3 quarters and 10 minutes. I mean, it just was such a fog. And you know what? Once again, I want to give credit to the Lions the Lions they do not have nearly as much talent as the Ravens do. They just don't. You can see that when you watch the film and you watch the parts of this game. But they are fighting and they are clawing and they are trying to establish an identity. They're, to me, the best 0-3 team in the NFL. They're not the 0-3 team that has a chance to make the playoffs. I still think that's the Colts, purely because if you look at the Colts schedule coming on up, there's a lot of Jacksonville and a lot of Houston on there. So they have a chance to kind of get right with some of this stuff and turn around, actually get some wins. But I do think if the Lions and the Colts played 10 times, the Lions would win more of the 10. I think they're a better 0-3 team. They need more a little bit from Jared Goff. He's still trying to figure out this new system and how it all works. He's got no wide receivers. They desperately need an Odell Beckham. They desperately need just a guy who you could throw the ball to get a catch or two.
Could have used Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, they really. I mean, they need a guy, and I think that to get credit to the Ravens for pulling off the win. It was an amazing kick. Justin Tucker really is that dude, and for a game that was totally in the back of your mind, it really stole the weekend in a lot of ways because of Justin Tucker.
Yeah. I mean, Vinatieri is still probably the GOAT when it comes to the moments he's had, but I think when it's all said and done, Justin Tucker may, by the time he retires, be the greatest kicker of all time, and it'd be really tough to even compete with him at that point. I mean, he already has the percentage in the, mid 90s or something like that, or low 90s. I mean, it's incredible what he's been able to accomplish so far in his career. And, Baltimore did what it had to do to get a win, and they improved to 2-1. And they're staying right there, at pace with the Browns and with the Bengals, atop the AFC North. Let's move on. You mentioned the Colts. We'll go to the Colts at the Tennessee Titans here, Mark. Tennessee comes away with a 25-16 victory. The Colts dropped to 0-3. It's their worst start since 2011. It was 14-10 Tennessee at the half, so it was actually pretty close, definitely in the first half there. But in the second half, Mark, Indianapolis had first and goal inside the 9-yard line twice, and they were held to just 2 field goals on both of those situations. To me, that was the game-changing part of this entire contest and what helped Tennessee stay on top here and get the 9-point victory. The one notable thing coming out of this one, Quentin Nelson was carted off with an ankle injury. His status right now uncertain. That's a big blow, obviously, to this Colts team. On the flip side, Derrick Henry, another big day, over 100 yards, had that awesome catch where he ran over Darius Leonard. And Ryan Tannehill coming back to form here with 3 touchdowns as well. But Tennessee getting a big victory, one they needed in the division as well, and able to stay atop there in the NFC or AFC South, I should say.
Yeah, you got to love this win for Tennessee if you're a Tennessee Titans fan. And also, if you're one of those people who thinks Tennessee or thought Tennessee before the season had a real chance to make a deep run, this was such an important stretch. I mean, obviously, getting this game in hand over the Colts, putting them to 0-3, knowing that you have the Jets and the Jaguars the next 2 weeks. I mean, the Titans will easily be sitting at 4-1 going into that big Monday Night Football matchup, hosting the Bills, and they get to host the Bills. So very confident. They'll be playing good football. They'll have won 4 straight after the 0-1 start. And even then, if they lose the Bills, they got the Chiefs the next week. You're at 4-3, and you're still in a really good spot against playing a Colts team then in late October, the next time you see that divisional opponent. So the Titans have put themselves in a really great spot by winning this game. And you know what? I will say this. At what point in time do you have to ask yourself, if you're a Colts fan, Carson Wentz, I love that you're wanting to grit it out with 2 sprained ankles. And I know there's just not a lot of better options on your depth chart, but are you almost hurting your team by gunning it out at that point in time? Because you could tell there was not the mobility that Carson Wentz wants to have that makes him dangerous at times in that game. 19 to 37 for 194 yards. I mean, he had a passer rating of 66.7, only averaging 5 yards in a completion. It just was a brutal day all around for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, no, I jumped off of that bandwagon last year after hanging tough with him much longer than most. It's just I'm in a position where I'm just going to wait until I see it, because we've been waiting a long time, and it's the thing is, if he was joining a brand new staff, I'd give a little bit more leeway, but it's the same coach, it's a lot of the same verbiage that he was used to in Philadelphia, so. I know, Frank Reich even said they had to tone down the offense a bit, and he was at about 70 to 80%. They wanted to roll him out there because he was the best option. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's still no excuses, and you gotta, if he's the best, then that was your best shot, and you guys still didn't win and look very good. So yeah, it's a tough start. As I mentioned, worst start in a decade for them. They're going to have to turn it around real quick. The good news for them is they're in a division where Tennessee's really the only threat. So they can do it. They're going to have to pull out some wins very quickly here and get that win against Tennessee coming up in mid-October, as you mentioned. I mean, that's going to be the biggest thing for the Colts.
I will say great viral video to come out of that game was Derrick Henry absolutely owning Darius Leonard. That
was such an awesome play.
2 elite players in their position, and Derrick Henry made Darius Leonard look like a child.
Absolutely ran through him and tossed him about 5 yards.
Yeah.
That was quite a moment for sure, but something we're used to seeing from Derrick Henry nonetheless. Probably the best game, Mark, of this week was the Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe not the best in terms of sound play. There's a lot of sloppiness, but in terms of this going back and forth and down to the wire and things of that sort, this game definitely provided the dramatics. The Chiefs trailed 14-0 early in this game, but took a 24-21 lead in the fourth quarter. Late in the game, it's Justin Herbert and company driving. They get fourth and manageable, maybe going to kick a field goal. They get a holding penalty that kind of pushes the field goal a little bit farther out. And so Brandon Staley says, we're going to go for it on 4th and 9 at the KC 35.
Gutsy.
They get the pass interference call. It was very gutsy. It paid off dividends. They go on to get the game-winning touchdown from Herbert to Mike Williams, who's become his favorite target here. And the Chargers end up getting the 30-24 win as their defense gets 4 takeaways from the Kansas City Chiefs, including 2 interceptions of Patrick Mahomes. Huge win here for the Chargers, and an even bigger win probably for Justin Herbert to get a win over the AFC West rival there, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those games you just couldn't take your eyes off of because you're just waiting. Mahomes has deservedly put himself in that Aaron Rodgers world where you're just like, well, if he gets the ball, it's over. You know what I mean? And it's quickly also becoming Justin Herbert to be entering into that world. I mean, The kid is incredible. And this division now is not, if you're a Chiefs fan, this was such a smack in the face of that wake-up call that, no. Like, you're not going to coast to anything in this division as long as Justin Herbert is healthy. Like, Justin Herbert is a talented enough, and Staley has got cojones. And you know what? There were some dumb decisions I think Staley made, but in the end, you also have to know who's your opponent on the other sideline. If he's making those decisions against a Bears offense, and you're like, dude, don't be an idiot. Just take the points, be smart. Like, let your defense win the game. But you're doing this against Patrick Mahomes, and the 49ers found out the hard way in the Sunday night game. When you're going up against the elite of the elite, you do have to coach differently. And so Staley's going to learn over time. He's going to play the Chiefs plenty and have to have game plans. So I do give him credit for at least having the guts and the game planning to do that. Herbert was great. And for the Chiefs, I said it earlier. I mean, I am so concerned about the amount they're turning the ball over, because to me, that just goes to show there's just not that edge. They're not playing with an edge like a team that They're playing like a team that won the Super Bowl last year, as opposed to a team that got embarrassed in a Super Bowl last year. That's concerning because that to me means there's just not that edge in the locker room. There's not guys getting on each other and like that desire that just raw dogs where you're like, the football is a brutal sport. Things can change really, really quickly. I still think the Chiefs are going to win this division. I still, if I'm a Chiefs fan, feel very good about the chances to win the Super Bowl, but you cannot keep this slide going for too long because, as we mentioned it last week when they lost the Ravens, there's only one team to get to bye, and that bye is really, really important now.
Yeah, with that 7 seed introduction, you really need that playoff or that week off going into the NFL playoffs because there's just so much that can happen from a week-to-week standpoint, and to be granted a win already essentially on Wild Card Weekend is a huge bonus, and now only one team gets it. They're now on the outside already this early, outside of that conversation for the time being, because they are now sitting at 1-2 in the basement of the AFC West. How many of us predicted that we'd have 2 undefeated teams and none of them being the Kansas City Chiefs going into this one? Pretty incredible stuff to start the NFL season, but plenty of time as well for them to turn things around. I will agree, though, it doesn't seem like they have as much of a chip on their shoulder, and it does seem a little bit more overconfidence. But maybe a loss like this and them starting slow will be enough to put that chip on their shoulder back and get them to kick it into gear sooner rather than later. A quick note: Andy Reid was sent to the hospital following the game. All accounts seem that he will be okay and that he's in stable condition and he'll be all right, but that's certainly a situation to monitor moving forward. New Orleans at New England, 28-13 win for the Saints, a pretty important win for them after having a Jekyll and Hyde start to the year. To go on the road in Foxborough, tough environment. Granted, yes, they were playing a rookie quarterback, Mac Jones, who looked pedestrian at best, 3 interceptions for the rookie. But New Orleans clapping back with a 28-13 win in convincing fashion. Jameis Winston tosses a couple touchdowns here. Team looked a little bit more in sync, Mark, as New Orleans gets the win. And as New England, once again, kind of shows we're not entirely sure what they are and what they provide just yet here early in the season.
I know one thing for sure about New England. They cannot score in 3-play drives. They're not the Bills. They're not the Chiefs. They're not the Ravens who could just get you, or the Packers are literally like big play, and touchdown. They don't have that ability that I've seen through 3 games. So to me, that limits their ability to make the playoffs at this point in time. Now, I will say the AFC East is really falling apart besides Buffalo. And so I think they'll still win some games and there's still defense will keep them in stuff. But if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm looking at that film and I'm walking into Josh McDaniels' office. I'm going, we really had that kid throw the ball 51 times. Like, that is not what we want to be doing as a New England Patriots offense.
For success now.
And if you're not able to run the ball effectively, if you're New England against the New Orleans Saints team, at some point in time, you just got to, I would rather protect my quarterback and try to get the game back in hand. And I kept saying this as a Bears fan as well. David Montgomery. I'm sure Eagles fans were saying it last night with Jalen Hurts. Run the ball. Miles Sanders. Just at some point in time, I'd rather watch 3 and outs where I'm just giving my guys a chance to run the ball and make something happen. Basic offense. Just, can you get a first down running the ball 3 times? Hat on a hat football. Go back to the basics. I'd rather watch that than my quarterback just struggle and get annihilated. That's not helping at all when your offensive line is playing badly. For the Saints, nice win on the road. They finally get to go home. They get the Giants at home. The Saints, this could be a portion of the season where you really look at like, wow, the Saints, what do you got going on there? Look back at this big week 3 win in New Orleans, in New England, kind of carrying them into a stretch here of the season.
Yeah, springboard game, if you will, for sure, going into this one. And yeah, sometimes boring football is winning football, and that's what you wanted to maybe see out of New England, something that they've shown us for years and years that they've been able to win with. Right now, not so much, and a couple, poor choices by Mac Jones to put them in, a couple situations that are tough. I know he was really dejected after the game on the sidelines, but he's a young rookie quarterback. There's going to be moments like that. Right? We are expecting that from a lot of these rookies, not just Mac Jones. Atlanta at the New York Giants. Speaking of a relatively boring game, although it did end up in some dramatic fashion with a game-winning field goal, a 40-yard boot from Younghoe Koo, who's just been phenomenal, one of the better kickers in the league, no doubt. Atlanta pulls off a 3-point victory, 17-14, dropping the Giants now to 0-3 mark, and all of a sudden, it's looking like the Giants are already putting themselves well out of contention for this NFC East race, in a race that we anticipate probably only one team coming out of come postseason time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say this. If I'm a Giants fan, and I know it's coming from Bears fan, who only scored 6 points and didn't get a touchdown, but you've got to be very frustrated that you have Atlanta's defense at home and you only put up 14 points. And I mean, at what point in time do you have to start to say that the Giants need to start looking at changes being made with Jason Garrett and what they're doing? Because that's a game, that's got to be a game that you at home, at least, even if you don't win to an Atlanta team. I mean, because that game reminded me a little bit of like just the experience of Matt Ryan, even though Matt Ryan is just a statue right now and he's not a Super Bowl caliber winning quarterback at this point in his career. That's a game like the experience of Matt Ryan helped really win that game. And you just can't have that. You cannot at home lose that game to the Falcons and only score 14 points doing it. It's a bad look.
Yeah, not great look from the Giants really all season long, and they've still yet to get Saquon Barkley going. We anticipated maybe a little bit of a slow start, but now's the time where they really need to rely on him quite a bit, and Daniel Jones to take that next step that we've been waiting for as well. So that's going to be something we're monitoring all throughout the season.
Yep.
But not a good look for New York to start things off with. By the way, Cordero Patterson only took 7 years to unleash this guy. I mean, he's really found a role. No, yeah. I mean, and Minnesota couldn't either, really, outside of his return ability. And so, yeah, he's finally being utilized in kind of that Curtis Samuel role that worked well for him in Carolina. That's kind of how I see Cordero Patterson fitting into this mold here in Atlanta, and they've been able to utilize him well. Neither of these teams, though, we anticipate doing much as the season progresses.
No, but good road win for the Falcons. I mean, hell, I had the Giants winning that game just at home. So, good for that. Good for them, because that's embarrassing for the Giants.
Yeah. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, Mark, a stinker for sure for the Steelers. Meanwhile, Joe Burrow and company looked good in this one. A 24-10 drumming of the AFC North rival here in Heinz Field. Back-to-back losses at home for Pittsburgh. And all of a sudden, they're at 1-2 after a thrilling win in week 1 over the Bills, really looking poor now in the past 2 weeks. And, big plays and a lot of Joe Burrow looking good as well, but really overall Steelers offense just looking like it's in shambles.
I think this is one of those box score games where you look at it and you say, like, wait, what? Joe Burrow was 14 of 18 for 172 yards and 3 touchdowns. He threw the ball 18 times. Ben Roethlisberger threw the ball 58 times for 318 yards, and they put up 10 points. I mean, yeah, that is just not what you want from any quarterback, let alone old, very immobile Big Ben. Steelers are in a lot of trouble. I remember one of our offseason shows saying, worst comes to worst, if you're a Steelers fan, you just got to try and appreciate Big Ben's final year and you get like a swan song year. But it's not even really feeling like that. It just feels sad. It feels bad. And it feels like this is going to be a long season for Steelers fans. And I was wrong. I had high hopes for the Steelers. I had them making the playoffs as a wild card team, and Big Ben having a little bit of enough magic early in the season to carry him and at the fall off late. I mean, he looks bad early, and that is not a good sign for what it's going to look like in December.
No, not at all. I mean, we're talking about a team that how bad the run game was last year. We're like, well, mean, it can't get much worse. Well, so
Right.
far, it's a lot worse than even last year, which is wild to say. Najee Harris is obviously special, and he's one of the only bright spots. He had 14 catches in this game, which were just majority dump offs. I mean, the problem really is just it's a universal issue with the team as a whole. Ben isn't capable of fully extending the play and getting some of those big plays that he was in the past. The offensive line isn't able to give enough protection to even help aid in that regression. They're not able to block for the run. They're not able to support their first round running back very much. And and then you have untimely drops. And then on the flip side, you lose Tyson Alualu to the season. No TJ Watt or Alex Highsmith last game. And so this is just kind of the stuff that happens. The defense giving up big plays. It's just a lot of situational mess. And the offense in general just doesn't seem to have an identity. A very difficult thing to watch, really, because, with all of the skill on this team in general, you're like, on paper, they should be better. But they're not even able to really sustain much of anything. And putting up 10 points at home against the Bengals is definitely a disappointing start to the season, a disappointing game, and to start 0-2 at home, really rough. I mean, I wish I had more to say. I wish I had a rant or something, but it's really just is what it is. It's what you all saw at home is just what it is. It's a mess. It's rough, and they're lucky that it's only 3 weeks into the season and that they have a win over Buffalo somehow. But they're gonna have to turn around real quick. They have Green Bay in Lambeau next week, and coming off of a game like this or the past 2 weeks, really, that's
not gonna be fun to watch. That's not gonna be fun to watch.
This team needs TJ Watt back in a heartbeat, and they need to run the football at least a modicum. 58 times passing for Big Ben was a lot of what we saw last season, and that wasn't a recipe for success at all. Arizona goes on the road in kind of a weird game here, Mark, but the Cardinals get a 31-19 victory over Jacksonville, so Jacksonville now 0-3. Arizona looked bad early on in this one. They were down 13-7 at the break, and that was a large part because they attempted a long field goal by Matt Prater. Jamal Agnew was back there to grab it in the end zone, and 109 yards later takes it to the house to give them a lead going into the break. A wild play there, one of the highlights of the game for sure. Other than that, though, Trevor Lawrence, 2 interceptions in this one, both to Byron Murphy for the Cardinals, and Arizona now moving to 3-0 to keep pace with the Rams atop the NFC West. Looking really good early on this season, despite this game in which it wasn't as convincing of a victory as you'd like, but at the end of the day, still a 12-point win for them, double digits, and the Cardinals, improving and remaining undefeated early on here.
Hey, listen, they did what they needed to do in the final 2 quarters. I mean, they scored 24 points in the final in the second half to win the game. And I will say that I think the most important thing you mentioned was getting to 3-0, keeping pace in that division, because they didn't know, obviously, that Sunday Night Football was going to happen with the Niners. Now with obviously the Seahawks, we're about to talk about that game and their slow start. Wins matter even more in that division, because once they start beating up on each other in division, these games against Jacksonville, you want to make sure that you get a W, walk out there with a W. For Jacksonville, it's one of those games where you hope they can build off this. That's one of those games you look at as his staff and you say, we had the lead. What happened? How did it unravel in the second half? Can we make adjustments? Where can we build on it from there? But then, as you say, they make the trade. Clearly, once again, already thinking about next year's draft and worried about next year. It's a frustrating place to be as an organization. As a Jags fan, I would just be spinning. My head would be spinning in a different way as a Bears fan, in the sense of saying, you've got to find a way to keep those guys. Those are guys you've got to find a way to keep. And they just cannot do it. From Jalen Ramsey to the countless others. It's got to be frustrating. But good win for the Cardinals. Keep pace in the division.
Yeah, absolutely. And, them staying at 3-0, it seems a lot bigger and it feels a lot bigger than, as you mentioned, what another team would be, whether it's in the AFC East or, the AFC South or something like that. To be 3-0 in the NFC West, to be the Cardinals at that point, feels a lot bigger because of who you're contending with in that division. Probably going to go down to the wire yet again as the season goes on. The Jets lay an egg on the road at Denver. Denver's defense obviously has been spectacular to start the year, and Teddy Bridgewater has been playing really good, smart football. He has managed this team about as well as you can expect a quarterback to do, and that's why he is still a starting quarterback in the NFL as Denver wins 26-0. They intercept 2 passes off of Zach Wilson, who now, Mark, has 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions to start the season. No one anticipated the guy to dominate the league, probably not even to win Rookie of the Year, given the situation in New York. But nonetheless, it is what it is. And this is a team that is really struggling. Meanwhile, Denver, looking really good, both on offense and defense, especially 5 sacks for them in this one as well. And they just run the football and keep pace in the division.
I think the only team that is a fan base that you should feel you're in more turmoil than the Bears is the Jets. And I say it because you have the guy who's supposed to be your head coach of the future, and you have your quarterback of the future, and it's this bad. And what's scary to me is that even though we didn't expect it to be good for the Jets, the choices they made in the offseason to be in this point, those are going to be really, really concerning. How they don't have a veteran quarterback in that quarterback room to help Zach Wilson, not to start, because I'm not for that. I'm all for giving these kids, just get them out there, play. You got to learn on the fly. I think Zach Wilson still has all the potential in the world to be a very good quarterback. But again, there's those cracks in the organization that no one thought to themselves, you know what? Not having a veteran quarterback and having a really good voice in the room is going to be not a big deal at all. Like, they're not expensive to go get yourself, a Chase Daniel, someone just veteran guy that can help break things down, be a sounding board for the young kid. And they really, and for Saleh, he's got a big climb ahead of him. And they just don't have any sort of horses. It's a brutal spot to be in right now if you're a Jets fan. I'll say this about the Broncos. Everyone's hating on the Broncos because they've beaten only teams that are 0-9 combined. But you can only play who you've played, who's on your schedule, and they've looked good in all the games. Like they're not. I mean, that's a blowout win. So they are that much better than the worst of the worst. So that to me says something that they are a quality football team. Are they a playoff team? They're starting to look more and more like it, but they're certainly a quality football team and a well-coached football team. And man, oh man, wouldn't I love to have Vic Fangio as the head coach in Chicago right now? I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, he's really making a case and showing, why those years of building that defense and building the culture in Denver, it seems to be coming to fruition. And they've been somewhat of a surprise here to start the year. And another team that's really been a surprise to start the year, especially for me, has been the Las Vegas Raiders, who come away with a thrilling overtime win against Miami at home, 31-28. Daniel Carlson boots in the game winner in OT. So it's now the 3-0 Las Vegas Raiders, their best start since 2002. They were down 14-0 early on in this game. And then really, besides the comeback, they're able in the final seconds, Jacoby Brissett gets a 4th and goal rushing touchdown in the final seconds, gets the 2-point conversion to send it to overtime, and then Las Vegas goes on to win it. But without Tua, Miami put up a fight. But really the storyline out of this is the 3-0 Raiders keeping pace with the 3-0 Broncos to fend off the 1-2 Chiefs, just like we all predicted, right?
Yeah, it's exactly how I predicted it. That's for sure. I will say this about the Raiders. This is the type of winning that they're doing that to me is beyond an anomaly. It's one of those where it's like, oh, no. They were not playing good football, against a very motivated Dolphins team, a very hungry Dolphins team. And yet they scrapped to find a way to win that game. That's one of those wins where you say to yourself, you can build off stuff like that. There's a momentum, it feels like. And Carr, to his credit, has been playing very good football early in the season. This feels a little different from last year's Raiders team that, started 2-0 and all that stuff that people kept saying. So give them credit. And it is for the Dolphins. Listen, I just, their defense, it feels a lot like Washington right now. They're the Washington, the AFC. It's like, well, wait a minute. What this was a team I thought I was going to be able to count on their defense, and you just can't right now. That's got to be a concern.
Yeah, 100%. And it's less about the Tua situation and just more about that very fact is like, these are games, being up 14-0, like you can't let teams come back like that, especially with the Brian Flores-led Miami defense.
Yep.
That we've seen play very aggressively and be very stout in the early going. This is seemingly uncharacteristic for them and not a good sign for, what's going to be probably, a battle in the division over the next several years you anticipate. Miami was really supposed to take that next step now. We'll see how quickly Tua can come back, and we'll see what happens. Credit to Brissett because he played pretty well. But yeah, I mean, really all you can say is Derek Carr is really taken over a lot of these games this year, and that's probably been the most impressive aspect of how the Raiders have been able to win some of these games. Another one of those contenders for the game of the week. Tampa Bay at the Los Angeles Rams at SoFi Stadium there. And, a pretty thrilling game. Obviously, it lived up to the billing. A lot of offense, big plays. But the Rams come away with a 10-point, 34-24 win. One of the big things that stood out of this one was Deshaun Jackson getting one of those huge plays that we, anticipated the Rams being good at coming into the year with Matthew Stafford, with his arm and with the playmakers they have. Deshaun Jackson gets a 75-yard touchdown on third down with a 14-7 lead in the third quarter. That was kind of the point where the Rams were really able to start separating from Tampa Bay. Stafford finishes with 4 touchdown passes to Brady's 2 total touchdowns. What were your takeaways from this one as the Rams, stay undefeated and Tampa Bay falls in this one? A tough game, but also a road game against one of the best teams in the conference, if not currently the best team in the NFC.
I think the Rams are currently the best team in the NFC. I think they proved that with this win. I will say, I thought the Rams game plan was just fantastic. And they were so smart in how they attacked the Bucs defense, especially in the second half. Matthew Stafford is really, really
he's the perfect fit.
And it's scary because we said it off season and we expected it, and yet seeing it, it's still kind of just like hard to believe that it's like, shit, they got Matt Stafford, and he really is. I mean, they're home run hitting. I mean, they just hit home runs. It's the opposite of what you see from New England's offense, but yet it's not wild like Kansas City's. There's still such a run game orient to it. It still seems like they attack weaknesses with just such precision, and that's a lot of credit to Sean McVay. You can tell Sean McVay feels 100% confident with every play call. He didn't feel that way with Jared Goff. And that alone emanates through the organization, and it really is. And defensively, look, they have 2 absolute alphas and studs in Ramsey and Aaron Donald. They play great. And I'll say this for the Bucs. I'm not counting them out by any way, shape, form, or means. I think it's one of those games as a Bucs fan. It's kind of like how I felt about the Chiefs losing on the road last week. They just can't let this spiral into something. And we'll talk about, I know, to wrap up the game, they have a giant game coming up on Sunday for the Bucs. But I thought overall the Bucs still played really well. That's a great football team in LA. And that stadium's fantastic. Can't wait to watch Super Bowl there this year. Such a fun game. I wish I was a fan of teams that were fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's what I kept saying.
That'd be great.
So God, it's fun to watch teams that are good.
Yeah, well, I said I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but like, does your team play inspired football? Is it an offense that you feel can light up the scoreboard on any given day? That's what you feel with Tampa Bay. That's what you feel with the Rams, and that's what's going to keep them in the Super Bowl conversation all throughout the
Yeah.
season. Which, by the way, is it next week? The Super Bowl plane takes off.
Week
Or
4, I've already
departs. All right,
listen.
there we go.
Week 4, we start to get where all the teams are at, who's in line, who's left
Very good.
behind, who's in first class.
Looking forward to it for sure. So yeah, one more week to go on that front. Let's hit up the Seattle at Minnesota game. A surprising game to say the least. Minnesota 30-17 win at home over the Seattle Seahawks. A big win there for the Vikings, no doubt about it. A big win for Kirk Cousins. 3 touchdown passes in the first half for him, and they were able to kind of coast from there and just play safe, smart football in the second half. Alexander Mattison is in place of Dalvin Cook in this game, puts up 171 total yards as Minnesota scores 23 unanswered points and holds Seattle scoreless in the second half. And I will say this before I toss it to you here, Mark. Mike Zimmer called it the best offensive performance that he has seen in 8 years with Minnesota. Yeah, that's saying a lot, especially with, a few games that we can recall, even in the playoffs, perhaps. So for him to say that about Kirk Cousins' performance, about the team's performance without Dalvin Cook, how was this more? Did this say more about Minnesota or did it say more about Seattle? Because that's really where I'm trying to figure out. Is it an indictment, and are we seeing more of Seattle from late last year? Or are we, seeing just one of those rare Minnesota, just everything's clicking for them type of weeks?
That to me had the feel of a game that it was like the Minnesota coaching staff and the players knew all week. If they fall to 0-3, there's like jobs on the line. They're like, it felt like one of those where it's like,
you have to have it.
We are the hungrier dog in this game. And it was a great game plan. And you know what? They were served up a juicy opponent, a motivated Seattle team that had lost at home, but a defense that Seattle is just so porous. I mean, they got absolutely gashed in the rushing game. They had no answers for Kirk Cousins' passing attack. And I get it. He's got 2 elite wide receiver weapons, but they just could not get to him. And if you're Seattle and a Seattle fan, and if you're Russell Wilson, this is exactly what Russell Wilson was talking about in the offseason. He has a head coach who has a philosophy all about defense winning games, and his defense flat out fucking sucks. And it has sucked for years, and Russell Wilson deserves better. And it's once again, here we are in week 3 in another season, and Russell Wilson is dealing with this crap. Yeah. Your defense can't get out the field on third downs, and they can't stop a backup running back from Minnesota from gashing them. It's just, it's just a brutal spot to be in. I feel very shaky about my Seattle being the 1 seed. I still think Seattle's a playoff team, obviously. I think they'll play better in division, obviously, because I just think Russell Wilson is too good to be an 8-9 quarterback or a 9-8 quarterback leading his team. I think they'll figure it out. But it's going to fall on Russ, and it's going to fall on him just making magic happen. It looks like, again, because Pete Carroll, I don't know what the hell he's doing there.
I mean, it's the same. The Legion of Boom is so far in the distance.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's Josh Gordon era. That's Josh Gordon era stuff.
We haven't been able to get back, and that's been a big problem for them for sure. Moving on to Green Bay at San Francisco, the Sunday night football game. Also was a theatrical performance that went down to the wire. Aaron Rodgers said, "How can you not be romantic about football?" After that win, of course, he wouldn't have been saying it had the score been on the other
Eli
side
Manning
of the game.
That one. Yeah, I
right.
want Eli Manning that one.
Yeah, Green Bay gets the 2-point victory on a field goal by Mason Crosby to win the game. A 51-yarder, by the way. So clutch kick by Mason Crosby there. But really, I guess the story of this game was the back and forth affair that was expected. San Francisco goes on to take a 28-27 lead with 37 seconds to go. That proves to be too much time to give Mr. Aaron Rodgers and company. They carve up the San Fran defense in no time and are able to get down, spike the ball, and hit that game-winning field goal to get the 2-point win. It was a huge win for Green Bay, though. I mean, they really, like, after a lot of the question marks to start the season and talk about the laissez-faire attitude that Aaron, had, that everyone was saying was bringing to the team, and how they were shaky. They won against a really good San Francisco team. And so for the Packers, it was a good win. For San Fran, as a defense, as one that prides itself on being a stout defense, that you can't, I know it's Aaron Rodgers, you can't give those gaps, to, especially Devontae Adams had a couple really key catches on that, final possession to get them into field goal range. You just can't do it, Mark.
So 2 main thoughts. I mean, obviously, I thought that San Francisco did not handle the last couple minutes of the game very well with clock management and when they scored and all of those things that go into it. I will say this. I don't want to spend any time on Aaron Rodgers. We've all seen it a million times. That's what this dude does. And if you're not used to seeing it, you're not watching enough NFC North football like I sadly have been for the past 30 years. And when you do watch Aaron Rodgers, that's what he does. And so that's not shocking at all. And he was great late, and he's paid very handsomely to be great late. And that's what he's made his career off of. I will say the thing that I took from this game that I actually feel like I learned something. This was the first time in the Matt LaFleur era that I thought to myself, damn, Green Bay did not tuck their tail in and turtle up when they were hit in the mouth. They hit back. We've seen it twice at NFC Championship games in the Matt LaFleur era, a couple times in regular season games already in the first game of this season, where they turtle when they get hit in the mouth, and they didn't do that. And so that's something new. I haven't seen that before. Can it be sustained? I don't know, but it was interesting to see.
It was an important win for them. And yes, to your point, the physicality aspect of their play has been in question over the past few seasons, especially in those key moments in the playoffs when they need it the most. They end up cowering. Perhaps this is one of those wins that serves as a springboard and a motivating factor to kind of launch you into the second quarter of the NFL season as they wrap up the first quarter here next week. So yes, huge game there and a big win for them. San Fran is going to be just fine as well. I think that there were moments in this game where Jimmy G, just missed a couple times, and they really needed something from him. The running game wasn't there, and they've had injuries, but we'll see if San Fran can get kind of back to that identity. They were this close though to beating a really good Green Bay team. So we may be looking back at this game as somewhat of a signature game, moving on as we get through the season for the Green Bay Packers. Philadelphia at Dallas was the Monday night game. Look, I anticipated Dallas winning this game. I thought they would. I did not anticipate Dallas to win by 20 points, a 41-21 win where Dak Prescott and many of the starters were sitting out for the majority of the second half, Mark, after Prescott goes 21-26 for 3 touchdowns. It was a Zeke game as well, 95 yards, a couple scores for him. And then the Dallas defense looking good as well, getting 2 interceptions off of Jalen Hurts.
A couple main thoughts I take away from this game. I never want to overreact to Dak Prescott beating up the NFC East, because if you look at Dak Prescott's career wins and his career stats, so much of it has come against dreadful Giants teams over the past 4 years. They've been dreadful, really up and down, and mostly bad Washington football teams over the past 4 years. And an Eagles team that, besides the Super Bowl run, especially defensively, has just not been good. He's owned that division, winning in that division. But I will say I have been very impressed. This is the most confident I feel in saying that I believe at this point in time right now, as far as starting quarterbacks in the NFL, Dak Prescott is somewhere officially to me now in that top 10. I think he is right around that 10 mark. Would I necessarily, there's still other younger quarterbacks that I would choose above as far as starting my franchise than a Dak Prescott. But I think currently he is playing at that's a top 10 quarterback level, seeing the field, making the throws extraordinarily accurate, moving really well, he looks less athletic coming off of that injury. It doesn't feel like he has what he had year 1 and 2 is just explosive, but also he's in year 6 now, or so it'll age is maybe catch up with him with some of the injuries, or he's maybe just being smarter with his body. But he deserves a ton of credit, and that offense has so many pieces around him. Zeke was running well. Tony Pollard running really well. CeeDee Lamb is like a cheat code. It's so fast, such range. Amari Cooper is exactly what Jared Goff needs, just a guy who can catch everything thrown his way, can get separation. It reminds me a lot of Allen Robinson in that way. So that's all really positive. Defense for Dallas has looked better, but I will say this. They
really have.
I will say this. As an Eagles fan, you've got to be just as frustrated as the Jets and the Bears fans. How do you run the ball 2 times with Miles Sanders? That game plan was pathetic. Jalen Hurts, you can win games with Jalen Hurts, but I'm getting closer and closer to saying that Jalen Hurts is not a franchise quarterback. I will give him the whole year, like I said before the season, but there's just too many easy things that Jalen Hurts, it feels like Mitchell Trubisky-esque to me, where it's like, yeah, I can win games, and yeah, he makes some spectacular plays, but then there's too many of the easy things that I'm like, that's ugly. That is so ugly. Very, very, very ugly. And so I will still give him the time. Like I said, I'm going to give him the whole season, but he's not getting any help from the game plan. You got to run the ball with a very good running back more than 2 times.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's and part of it was they let themselves kind of dig a hole pretty early on, and then at that point, you're trying to play catch up, and they're putting themselves in a bad situation. Here's an idea, Mark. Maybe what the Bears do is they sign Dalton and Foles to like 3-year extensions, then trade for Dak Prescott, and you can have yourselves a 4-way quarterback competition in Chicago. I think that'd be Hard Knocks. Let's do it.
Honestly, at this point in time, I would take Mike McCarthy over Matt Nagy, because at least Mike McCarthy's smart enough to have said, I'm just going to let Kellen Moore offense be the offense, because Matt Nagy doesn't have an offense right now.
Right.
So I would at least I would take Mike McCarthy's horrible clock management and him just being like, I'll let someone else do offense and I'll just manage the clock badly.
Hey, sometimes you need to do that.
I mean,
you have to.
Yeah, at this point, good Lord. Yeah.
Before we close out the show, Mark, we're going to get to a preview of the epic Sunday Night Football game coming up. But before we do, you had posed a question before the show, and I think it's a good one we can discuss real quickly. There are 5 teams that are 0-3, that being the Jets, the Jaguars, the Lions, the Colts, and the Giants. Which one of these 5 are you most confident in moving forward? And do you think of these 5, which one has perhaps the best chance to enter the playoffs come season's end?
So I said a little bit earlier, and I appreciate having to be able to have this time to just kind of talk through this, because I do think I think personally right now the Lions are the best 0-3 team. If you had to just make them all play each other in a tournament, I think the Lions win the tournament of the 0-3 teams. I think that they have an identity as much more than the others. I think Jared Goff, especially if he's playing his dome and there's no rain, that helps him immensely. And I think they actually play hard and are competitive. The problem with them is they have a flippant brutal schedule, as we documented when we were making the predictions about the teams. And I'm, again, not shocked that they're 0-3 at this point in time. I will say, though, if you're making me believe in one team to have a chance to make the playoffs, I really do think it's the Colts. I mean, they have the Dolphins. That's a team that's falling apart, and they are and a team that's going to be without Tua, their starting quarterback. And then they have the Ravens. So that's really bad. But they do have the Texans coming on up. They have a stretch where they get the Jets and the Jags back to back. They get the Texans and the Jets and the Raiders late in the season. And I do have faith in, I love Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich's a great coach, and I love their defensive pieces. So if you're making me believe in one team, I'll still, for one more week, hold on some hope. They've got to beat the Dolphins to have a chance. They've got to right that ship quickly. But I do think the best 0-3 team is the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think I agree with you for the most part. Although maybe I would still think the Colts are the best 0-3 team, but it's pretty close. But yeah, I do think that the Colts are the best. Have the best chance of making the playoffs. Not only for the reasons you stated, especially regarding the schedule, but also just personnel. I mean, they have the best personnel of all of these teams here. So that one gives me confidence that they could potentially turn things around. And they have a division that is still up for grabs. And so with only the Titans to really contend with, whereas some of these other teams, the Giants have to contend with the Cowboys now and the Washington football team, and that it seems, to be a bigger hill than overcoming just the Titans. Like, it's just the Titans for the Colts here that they have to worry about for the most part. The Lions have to worry about Green Bay and now Minnesota. The Jets have to worry, obviously, about the Bills and, still the Miami Dolphins, who we think are still pretty good despite their rough start. So, yeah, for those reasons, I think the Colts have the best chance to make the playoffs of being 0-3, although none of them have good odds. It's under 10%, I believe. So
yeah, well, and I think I would put the Giants third on that list, especially over the Jags.
Yeah, the Jets and the Jags aren't probably don't have much
but
of a
I'll
shot
say
at
this.
all.
I think the only other reason I lean towards the Colts over the Lions is because the Lions are clearly snake bitten. I mean, they are the poor Lions are so snake bitten. The Colts are not snake bitten. The Lions, man, they're just a cursed franchise. Like a lot of the other historically bad NFL franchises, they're just cursed. And so
we could have been talking about how epic of a win it was against the Ravens, this past week, and that could have really been, something to inspire. But yeah, once again, they
good for the Lions, though. They did get
they compete, though. Like you said, they compete, and that is something different than what we've seen out of Detroit in the past several years. Maybe that is, kudos to Campbell. Maybe that is something that he brings to the table.
Totally, but I will say this: last thing on a bad team is they did get the chance to boo their owner, and I appreciate, and I feel because as Calvin Johnson was getting inducted into their Ring of Honor, they did get a chance to boo their owner, and that feels good. I wish that the Bears could induct someone to the Ring of Honor, so I could not boo Virginia because God bless her, and she's the daughter of the founder of the NFL, but her idiot sons, I would like to boo them.
There you go. Hey, and maybe one day you'll get your opportunity, and maybe you'll get that opportunity in Arlington Heights. Who knows? We'll see.
I would at this point appreciate that very much.
For sure. All right. So outside of the Thursday night football game, it's the Jaguars at the Bengals. I don't think we're going to spend too much time on that. I will just quickly say I'm taking the Bengals in this one. I assume you would as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Very good. We shall move on. Cincinnati, by the way, 7.5-point favorites currently on Caesar Sportsbook there. All right, let's move to the big one, though, the Sunday night football game that has been highly anticipated for quite some time now. Tom Brady, in his return to to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. 2-1 Bucks at the 1-2 Patriots. It's Tom Brady, 44-year-old Tom Brady, against his rookie predecessor in Mac Jones here. Should be an exciting one, but Tampa Bay, I'm actually surprised at this, Mark. Tampa Bay right now is just a 6.5-point favorite.
That doesn't shock me too much. I think the line will continue to move as the week goes on. I mainly wanted to talk about this game because if you haven't already seen the Sunday night football promo that they're running for this, it may be one of the most.
Seen that.
Look it up. It may be one of the best edited videos I've ever seen in my life. It's to Adele's "Hello." And it is brilliant. And it starts with a shot of Bill Belichick. And you just hear hello. And then it cuts immediately to a shot of Tom Brady's face. And it goes, "It's me." And then it's like hello from the other side. I mean, it's just flipping brilliant. Whoever put it together, the NBC team deserves a massive raise. It's hysterical. It's amazing. It's emotional. It's all those things. I think this will be the most highly watched regular season game this year, depending on what could happen later. But I just think this is going to set some records. I think it's going to be a really, really fascinating game to watch. I think that you already heard a quote from Tom Brady talking with one of the ESPN reporters, I think Tom Darlington, and I thought it was a fascinating quote. He's like, they're like, this has got to be a game where you're just not going to know how you feel. And Tom Brady has already confidently said, I know exactly how I would feel. I played in a million Sunday night football games. I know how they feel. I know exactly how it feels walking into that stadium on a Sunday night. I know exactly what the lights will look like. I know exactly what the wind will feel like in an early October day. Like, that is just so badass and amazing because it's true. He's right. I think the Bucs are going to destroy him. I can't wait to watch it. I'm gonna lose so much money if somehow the Patriots cover the spread. I'll bet it if it's 10. I think Tom Brady. If you're a Patriots fan, I think the only thing you are holding hope for is that the Bucs won that game against the Rams. The fact that they lost, then they're angry and they know they can't lose 2 in a row. Oh, it's going to be a bloodbath, and I can't wait to watch it.
It's all for all of the reasons that's made Tom Brady so good and what we've known. Like, it'd be stupid to bet against him. Whenever he's emotionally invested in anything, he's going to destroy. He's going to go on a tear. I would honestly be shocked, even though it's Bill Belichick. It's the scheming. It's still a fairly sound defense. Despite all of that, I don't see them being able to remotely slow down Tom. Tom's coming into this not only with just the emotional investment of like playing against his former team, but you mentioned it, like coming off of a loss. Like Tom Brady ever coming off of a loss is dangerous. Now you're pairing that with him coming off of a loss to an NFC rival against now your former team of 20 years, which you won. The fans are going to be going crazy. The heightened environment is going to be wild. And then it's prime time. This has all the makings of a Tom Brady 33 touchdown performance. I'm going for it.
The only way I think that this game will shock me is if we find out after the game, if the Patriots win, that Bill Belichick did something different. Because Tom Brady said also in that promo that I saw on Twitter today that he's like, I know exactly what they're going to say to them all week. And we know Bill Belichick, and most likely he's not going to change from this. But he's going to be preaching all week, just another game. Here's the scheme. Boring. I have a feeling
I think you said that a little bit too like.
Yeah, I have a feeling Tom Brady will say on a Saturday night in front of that team, help me embarrass them. Like, it's going to be emotional. And I think
it's going to fire up the guys.
I think that's the type of edge that's going to help this Bucs team want to embarrass that. And you got to remember, this Patriots team, there's a lot of new pieces on this Patriots teams in the 2 years that Brady's been gone. Also, so if Belichick for some reason also does something like on Saturday night, gets emotional and rah-rah and says something that's completely out of the ordinary, maybe the Patriots will be fired up. But I think I can't wait to watch, and I think it's going to be a win for the Bucs.
Big game coming up on Sunday Night Football.
Watch the promo.
I will. I'm definitely checking that out very soon. And maybe the thing that Belichick, what if he just shows up in like a suit? Like he doesn't wear the cutoff hoodie anymore. He is showing up to this game.
Then I might also bet on the Patriots then.
Yeah. I'd be a little terrified and a little intimidated by Belichick in a suit. Especially if it's like a 90s Michael Jordan suit, like not tailored, just this massive suit.
Yeah, well, that would be the last time he owned a suit. It was that one.
Right, exactly. Yes. Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to that. But so another good slate of some games, a battle of some undefeated teams, and we'll see the Buccaneers at the Patriots for that Sunday Night Football game. Really looking forward to that. You can follow him at Mark Hespin on Twitter. You can follow myself at Dan Vasco, and follow the show at FB Lounge Pod. Be sure to check us out every week. Give us some love on YouTube if you can. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. And check us out on social, as we'll be updating that throughout the week with some of our bets of the week, as well as we get closer to Thursday Night Football and as we get closer to Week 4. But that has been our Week 3 recap. We'll see you back here next week.